ahead on 12 News, breathing new life into your garden. Some tips to make the most of August. Plus, mixed feelings on affordable housing, what a Maple Grove survey says about the issue. But first, one company's plan to bring jobs and build in Brooklyn Park, but why the city is saying no thanks. 12 News starts right now. Brooklyn Park is looking for ways to bring more jobs and tax money to the city.
But the city council says no thanks to a proposal from a business hoping to move to Brooklyn Park. 12 News reporter Chris Hawaiian explains why the city feels a FedEx distribution center isn't a good fit.
The city of Brooklyn Park says this undeveloped land north of Highway 610 is its last opportunity to get a significant return with taxes and jobs. But the city council turned down a proposal from FedEx to set up a distribution center on the site. The new facility would have brought 64 full-time jobs and about 200 part-time positions. The council, however, was concerned about traffic because FedEx would also bring more than 400 semis to the area each day.
I can't imagine having semis lined up there all day long and all night long. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, if this were, I'm saying it. If this were in a different spot, I'd be all for it.
Brooklyn Park Mayor Jeff Lundy says the number of full-time jobs the facility would create aren't enough.
One of the things that we've been trying to accomplish is increase the number of jobs, daytime jobs, and this doesn't hit that mark.
Planning and Development Director Cindy Sherman says the city has a different vision for the area.
The city's goals of generating more jobs, higher tax base, improvements that will enhance other opportunities like restaurants and that kind of thing.
And those restaurants are some of the things that city officials have repeatedly heard that residents want. Also, FedEx has other distribution centers in St. Paul, Shakopee, and Matamirai, but company officials say that they are eyeing the Northwest Metro for a new location and view it as a geographically important area. However, Mike and Alex, the city says that it wants to get the highest and best use out of the land, and FedEx's proposal just wasn't it.
So not there, not the right spot.
Nope.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Right, thank you. The quality of life is good, it's a good place to raise children, and it's a good place to work. Those findings from a new survey on Maple Grove. But on the issue of affordable housing, the answers are a lot more varied. Only 55% rated the availability of affordable housing as excellent or good. That response was lower than other cities that did similar surveys. However, when asked if they'd support construction of additional housing for low to moderate income residents, 6 out of 10 said no. It's these kinds of answers that have city officials puzzled. Regional planning experts say if every community adds affordable housing, it's not as much of an issue. They also say government has let some newer suburbs off the hook in requiring more affordable housing.
At the same time, it gives many of these communities big new sewer systems and new freeway systems, builds the state often is building brand new school buildings and other infrastructure. And a person like me would say, as part of the quid pro quo for all of this state money and for schools and sewers and roads, they should provide for a small bit of affordable housing.
The opposition to affordable housing is actually a reversal to a Maple Grove survey done 5 years ago. In 2008, a small majority supported construction of additional housing for low and moderate income residents. Since then, city officials say more affordable housing has been built in Maple Grove.
An 18-year-old faces sentencing next week for a shooting incident in Brooklyn Park that left a teenager paralyzed. Laltigas Lyons pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting first-degree assault. He admitted pointing out the victim to a friend with a gun when two rival gangs met on Brookdale Drive last January. The resulting fight and gunshot paralyzed a 17-year-old from the waist down. In a plea deal, Lyons is expected to be sentenced to more than 6 years in prison. The county attorney's office says the actual shooter has not been arrested, and Lyons refused to identify him.
A Robbinsdale man is charged in the killing of another man in North Minneapolis. Marlon Robertson is accused of shooting a 21-year-old man several times in a parking lot on West Broadway. Robertson is charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and tampering with a witness. According to the criminal complaint, the gunman's distinctive shoes led to his arrest.
12 News has learned that a special legislative session is expected to take place on September 9th. The session would be set up to approve state funds for cleanup from June storms that caused damage around the state, including in Plymouth and in Golden Valley. Approval of state funds would allow Minnesota to receive federal aid. There also could be one more item on the agenda. Governor Dayton wants to see a repeal of the new sales tax on farm equipment repair.
The Salvation Army calls it one of the most fun events they host each year. And today in Brooklyn Center, we got to experience that excitement firsthand. The Salvation Army took 500 students clothes shopping at stores across the Twin Cities. That includes 80 kids at the Kohl's in Brooklyn Center. Students could spend $80 on shirts, pants, and the coveted brand new pair of sneakers.
Our community is very generous, and they give the children of this community an opportunity to feel good, so they're making a difference in each child's life.
And for some of the students, it was the first time in their lives that they've received new clothes.
The Robbinsdale Robins lost their nest 31 years ago when the school district decided to shutter the high school. Robbinsdale High School was in operation from 1936 to 1982. So for the past 3 decades, there have been no new alumni from Robbinsdale High, but that hasn't stopped all those existing graduates from celebrating class reunions. This October, organizers are planning an all-class reunion for members of Robbinsdale High School, and for the past year, they've been busy collecting and organizing memorabilia.
Archives Committee. We meet every Thursday, and we've been having the fun of going through all of our memorabilia and reliving fun things from the past. So it's real fun. We've got a lot of fabulous things, and I know the people that are going to attend are really going to be excited to see it.
The all-class reunion festivities are scheduled for October 18th, 19th, and 20th with a meet and greet at the school on Friday night and a party at the Medina Entertainment Center on Saturday night. How much fun will that be?
It'll be a blast. They've got a lot of stuff to go through before that happens, I think.
And a lot of graduates to join, right? Well, the summer calendar is waning, but your days in the garden aren't over yet.
We'll have some tips to re-energize your garden. Then later in sports, we'll hear about plans taking shape for the high school football and soccer playoffs after the Metrodome comes down.
But first, a look at your AccuWeather forecast.
If you think your garden has reached the dog days of summer, think again.
August is the time to think about breathing new life into your plants. 12 News reporter Shannon Slatton is in the garden this week to explain how.
Take kind of a fresh approach to things.
Jennifer Ebeling's garden is a smorgasbord of what she loves. Fun fountains, vegetables, flowers, and garden nostalgia abound here.
I think about August as a second spring.
This master gardener doesn't think the growing season is about to buzz by. Instead, August is a time to re-energize.
This year, it's been so mild out that you really have a chance to get back in your garden and work in it and refresh it.
One way to do that is to prune your plants.
It just makes it look so much better, and the plants like it.
Deadhead blossoms.
You can take a bloom off like this.
Remove dead pieces.
Here's a dead cane.
Or prune to get the shape you want.
This looks a little out of control here. You can see it just has gotten really messy.
Give your garden a good weeding.
Huge job in August is weeding. I mean, gardeners, we weed, but August is a great time to make sure that you're staying on top of weeding.
And then it's time to give it another layer of mulch.
In an area like this, I can come through and just top dress lightly with this cocoa bean mulch. Smells like chocolate.
Finally, think about planting crops for a fall harvest, like salad greens or herbs.
So instead of baking and over-ripening too quickly, they mature slower, and you end up with this fabulous harvest.
August also means fall isn't too far away. So it's time to think about your timeline for putting your garden to bed, bringing your plants inside, and ordering those bulbs for fall plantings. In the garden in Maple Grove, Shannon Slatton, 12 News.
You can check out more of Jennifer's advice on her blog or weekly podcast. We have both linked on our website. Just click on In the Garden. Coming up, a new addition to a local fishing spot.
How it will help make fishing more accessible. Plus, speaking of fishing, we have Terry Tuma and his weekly tip. John Jacobson has that and more next in sports. John Jacobson with a look at sports now, and if you're a student athlete, one thing you don't want to do is miss the first day of practice, so you have to have your ducks in a row,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, you got to be organized for your coach, right, and get everything ready. And sometimes people forget, so it's a good reminder. High school athletes in fall sports will be at their first practices of the season next week. We talked to one local activities director about what students and parents or guardians need to remember before hitting the field, court, trail, or pool.
Students, in order to be ready for fall sports here at Champlin Park, need to make sure they have a physical on file with us here in our high school activities office. Those physicals are good for 3 years. They also need to pay a fee for those activities that they are going out for in the fall. And then third and lastly, they need to make sure that they have the Minnesota State High School League forms filled out and signed by their parents or guardians and themselves to be eligible for sports here at Champlin Park.
New this year to Champlin Park High School and the Anoka-Hennepin High Schools is online registration for athletics. There's a link to the online registration process on the Champlin Park High School website. The Minnesota State High School League Board of Directors held its first meeting of the school year this week. I talked to league staff member Kevin Merkel about some changes on the horizon for postseason football and soccer, and also about this fall and the third season of zero-week scheduling for prep football.
You know, I think it's worked out really well. It's provided an option. I'm not sure that anybody really likes it. If they had their choice, in most cases, they prefer not to do it. But it provides that option for teams to get games. And we don't think anybody is trying to take advantage of anything with it. And we have about the same number each year. I think we have approximately 14 or 15 schools that have taken advantage of it this year.
Football scheduling has been an issue now for a while, and there continues to be discussion of some kind of statewide scheduling or other scheduling options. Where are we at with discussions for that?
Well, we're at the point where our board has decided that we need to try to do something. You know, there's some schools that would prefer to have what we call section football scheduling, and that solves the problem for some people, but it creates other problems for others. So we're still have that one on the table, but we're also looking at some other options that might provide a way in which schools could be provided with help at the state level for scheduling throughout the state. And so we don't have a real name for it yet, but we're looking at creating what we call scheduling groups. Some people have said pods, where we group up to 16 schools perhaps in one group, and they could then structure a schedule. Our goal is to study and continue to look at this model and get more information this fall. And our board is looking to make a decision shortly after the first of the year.
The Metrodome comes down after this Viking season. High school postseason soccer and football is affected by that for at least a couple of years. Where are those discussions at, and what you do for 2014 and beyond?
We're not quite there yet where we'd like to be. Soccer is considering looking at playing their games at St. Cloud State University, which looks like a good site for them. I've been working with the University of Minnesota. We're hoping that we can play our football games at TCF Bank Stadium. There's still some challenges to work out there as we have to work around some schedules at the university, and of course you have the Vikings playing there and so on. So we don't have that nailed down yet, but we do know the Gopher schedule now for the next couple of years, and we may have to, it's likely that in 2015 we'll have to adjust our playoff schedule. We may have to start the season a little bit earlier. We just don't know that for sure yet.
Finally, hooking sunfish is the topic for this week's Channel 12 fishing tip. Here's Tackle Terry Tuma.
Last week we talked about jigging for big sunfish, some of the locational factors and so forth. But as I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit more about it this week. And another great, excellent way, or more than one way, of catching these big sunfish instead of anchoring, and here comes the bobber system, is use again a longer rod, but we're going to use a live bait rig, very similar to what we do for walleye fishing. But the snout is going to be about 4 feet long only, 4-pound test line, and then use a proper size hook. Generally speaking, a number 6 or a number 8, and then with a bead attached just above the hook. Now this becomes a splash of color at this time, a little extra bulk, and you can use colored hooks, you can use gold hooks and so forth, but whatever is going to work for you under those certain conditions. Use a medium-sized leech, or you can also use small crawlers. Small crawlers are just dynamite for these big sunfish. And now you're going to use your electric trolling motor. You're going to troll, not anchor, for these fish. You can also use some of your artificials, such as some of your gulp baits and so forth, is another factor, or another way of catching these fish. But do get out and get just a try. Now, just a little bit of an inside tip. Tough bite sunfish is using a number 6 hook with a long shank, and then thread, just pinch off that crawler and thread part of that crawler about 2 inches up the shank and let about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch trail behind. Troll it, at the same time sort of jig it. Very, very productive for negatives, big, deep sunfish. Give it a try. You're going to be amazed at how many you can catch. And be sure to tune next week for another tip right here.
Thanks, Terry. That's a look at sports for today.
All right, thanks, John. And stay tuned. There is a place in Brooklyn Park where people are tackling a big fishing project.
Dozens spent the day on a pond project that also pays tribute to veterans. We'll explain more when we come back. The new fishing pond outside of Brooklyn Park's community center is encouraging kids and families to get outside and drop a line together.
And this week, there's an effort underway at the pond that will make fishing even more accessible to everyone. Board by board, there's a community building project in progress at Brooklyn Park's new fishing pond.
Why not? It's a beautiful day. Get to do something for the city. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Janice Onenson and more than 30 Home Depot employees are giving up a day of pay. They're volunteering to build a new fishing pier and a fishing deck at the pond.
Our pier and our deck will be handicap accessible. So it really opens up the pond for everyone's use in the community, regardless of ability.
The work here is possible through a $20,000 grant from the Home Depot Foundation. It was awarded to Brooklyn Park's Yellow Ribbon Network and Living Word Christian Center.
We thought, let's name them the Veterans Memorial Fishing Pier. And then it can really be a place to honor our veterans, and we can get the grant from Home Depot to get all of the work done that's needed for the pond.
Since opening this spring, the fishing pond has been a hot spot for kids and families. The Home Depot grant now helps build upon that sense of community.
The children are the biggest part of our community. If we grow the children here, they'll want to stay here. And then with the veterans, they've given a lot to the country, so we want to make sure that we're taking care of them at the same time.
When the new additions are finished, more people will be able to cast a line at this pond.
It opens it up even more so more people can use it.
The grant money is also being used to build a garden and a resting area outside the nearby armory, and they expect to have all the work finished by the end of this week. So.
Wow, and tonight, I suppose even more people there.
Yes, they'll have more volunteers joining them this afternoon and this evening.
All right.
That does it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Stay with us. Community Corner is coming up next, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.